Welcome, YouTube. This is Emperor Dion. I strongly feel as though most Americans are mentally retarded. Like, I'm serious. Like, genuine mental retardation. Like, Down syndrome levels of stupidity. Americans don't have the intellectual capacity to appreciate many things, really. Many things. For instance, America is one of the few nations that I can think of off the top of my head where it's completely normal to only speak one language. Most people around the world globally can speak multiple languages. Well, maybe not most people, but there's lots of people, or there's lots of countries even, where it's very common to speak more than one languages, and there's people that speak 3, 4, 5 different languages, you know? In America, like amongst Americans, you don't see that. Americans never speak more than just English. Okay? Like, every time you run into an American that does speak more than just English, you know, and I can even throw myself in that too. Oh, well, you know, like, because I grew up here, I was born, raised here. They don't really encourage you. Like, it's very much not encouraged to learn anything other than English. You know, America, like, this is intentional, by the way. America had, like, a whole agency they made, like, back in, I don't even know when exactly, but I do know that America had a whole agency that specifically kept out the media of other countries from basically entering consumption by the American audience. You know, like, America actually, you know, for all this talk of freedom and shit like this, it heavily censors the media that comes into the country and is consumed by its citizens, you know. So, Americans, due to the lack of exposure to outside cultures, Americans, not only do they not speak any other languages, okay, but the only Americans who do speak other languages are usually like Hispanic. So like, oh, like they speak English and Spanish. That's the most common pair of languages right there, English and Spanish, and it's usually someone who's Hispanic. So go figure, you know. That doesn't really count in my opinion. Now, by extension too, Americans are extremely profoundly ignorant of other cultures, like I previously said. So they don't know anything about the world, and don't care on top of that too, by the way. Don't care nowhere past, like, what, maybe Trump is dealing with this nation. Now all of a sudden they'll read up on it right quick, and all of a sudden they're an expert on that nation, even though they just heard about it yesterday, you know. But this is how Americans will typically behave. They don't have any curiosity about the world, so they don't know shit about shit. And literally they think too that everywhere else that's like not Europe or America are like all living in mud huts and don't have technology. Like, my grandmother literally said, you know, when I was going overseas one time, that I'm going somewhere where they don't have technology. I'm like, first of all, Grandma, fuck you. You know, that's a whole separate thing. I can't stand my grandmother, the one that's still living, you know. I want her to say, literally, fuck you. I'm done. I can't wait till you die, to be honest with you, because I never liked you in the first place. And for you to show me this level of ignorance, like, what, the place I'm going to don't have technology? Where the fuck do you think on this planet do people not have technology? Everywhere has technology, Grandma. Everywhere has fucking technology. We all got the same fucking shit. Unless you're living on North Sentinel Island. Or in the fucking Amazon. Get fucked. But this lack of understanding about the world outside of America, I can't fucking stand it. This level of ignorance makes me fucking mad. And this is very, very common with Americans. Very, very common. So, you know, it's very, very painful, actually, for me to be here in general, you know. This is why every waking moment I spend is used working towards me not having to be here. Good God, I cannot stand, like, it's a blessing that I often don't really get to engage in conversation with people for the most part, because I know if I did, unless it's on a very specific topic that maybe we share in common, I'm gonna get a lot of stupid, half-baked philosophical takes for, like, Americans are philosophically bankrupt. They have no philosophy. The extent of American philosophy is literally either woke culture or fucking MAGA boy. One of those two. Or maybe if you're unlucky, you run into like an alt-righter or some shit where you gotta like punch him in the fucking mouth or some shit. Like, what you say? Psh! Don't you ever say that to me, you fucking racist faggot. It's either one of those three things you'll get from Americans philosophically, or you'll get one of these fucking right-wingers that are like, oh yeah, I'm pro this and pro that, but then I have no problem with black people. I have 2 black friends. Yeah, you got no problem with black people, but it just so happens that literally everything you stand for is like against black people or whatever. Whatever, guy. Man, Americans are just some of the dumbest people, because like literally every time I come back from overseas, no matter where it's from, I don't want to hold foreigners on a pedestal or anything, because foreigners are definitely not the smartest or the sharpest tools in the shed themselves, but I feel like that's for different reasons. No, Americans are stupid in a way to where, I mean, like I said, the lack of knowing other languages, the lack of knowing about the outside world in general, the lack of knowing things in general. Like, I find that most non-American people, they do have a certain level of competence to them that just doesn't exist in America. I mean, the Philippines is nowhere special, but I noticed even in places like the Philippines, for instance, like the level of competence that you just see. And yeah, like everything's kind of trashy and filthy over there, but there's still like the level of competence you get from service, from people, just observing people going about their daily routines, even like the level of competence they display. And like I said, the Philippines is nowhere special, but it still is at a higher level than what I observe in America. Okay? People, when you observe people in America just doing their jobs, they seem like the most miserable, stupid, daft, knuckle-dragging, idiotic, moronic, lazy, definitely fucking lazy. I just made a video talk about how, work isn't necessarily the best thing, but if you're gonna work, at least do it competently, diligently, and do it well. But Americans don't do this, okay? Americans don't do this at all. If you have to count on an American doing anything work-related, you can bet your ass it's going to be done very sloppily. Very sloppily, very bad, and with hardly any care to it. Like, this is a lot of the reason why I don't like going to restaurants. Definitely not. Because not only are these people going to have hella attitude, but they're going to expect a big tip that they did nothing to earn. The food's going to be all sloppy. And God forbid you get some fucking asshole that spits in your food too. Because that's not an uncommon thing in America either. Americans are stupid and evil in that way, that you can fully expect them to do some dumbass shit like that. But this is what I'm talking about, guys. This level of stupidity, like, you guys have probably seen the videos of, like, guys will go out and they'll, like, ask random people in the street, oh, can you name this country, what is this place on the map, or where's this country located? And then Americans will get this stuff hilariously wrong. Now, granted, it's mostly, like, women that they do this shit with, but, I mean, even a lot of men struggle with shit like this too. So, I mean, guys, so when I'm like overseas and stuff, I notice that there's a level of sharpness to people overseas that, like I said, people overseas are stupid in different ways, but when it comes to their work, when it comes to getting shit done that they really need to do, or when it comes to like keeping their system running, even if it's a kind of bad, inefficient system, they still keep it running due to a level of competence that I don't really see in America at all. And I really kind of wonder, how the fuck does America even run as a nation at all? Considering how lazy and stupid U.S. citizens are. Maybe it's the immigrants that are really keeping America running like it is. Like America doesn't really run very well, but it still runs, and it's still the most powerful nation, quote unquote, But I really kind of wonder how the fuck. I think America retains like a core of like actually competent people somewhere that keeps like the important stuff running, like the really critically important stuff that makes America a powerful nation. Like, I think America does retain a core of people that are actually still competent at a high level. And you don't really see these people because these people are highly compensated and they are in gated communities mostly, and you don't cross paths with these people. No, if you're just a regular person or you're dealing in a regular normie conforming society, you're not going to run into this highly competent core that keeps America running at its minimum level to be the most powerful nation in the world. That's kind of my headcanon to how America still maintains the position it has somehow. But on the whole, I mean, it doesn't matter, man or woman, young or old, This is why America's drifting, far right with the poors. It's because like they don't understand that, hey, if you're like super hardcore right wing, you are going against America's foundational values. I mean, America's foundational values are fake as fuck anyway, but still you're going against them by going that far right. But this is why shit like this happens, because America is such a stupid nation and the people in it are so stupid. And these stupid Americans, truly they've been neglected. Americans are a very neglected people too. But at the same time, I kind of don't blame the elites for neglecting these dumbass fucking Americans. Because it's like, what the fuck you gonna do with these people? Like, they're too stupid for you to really do anything with them. So, like, let's fuck them. So, ignore them and neglect them. Let's get our shit right over here. Fuck these people. We'll just engineer some fucking drone swarms to fucking deal with these assholes. Have our Terminator bots, make sure they're doing what we want them to do and stand out of our fucking way. Like, they're gonna institute a technocracy probably in America, and they're not really gonna give a fuck that the majority of the citizens are living in squalor. But like, I kind of can't blame the elites for handling your typical American citizen the way they do, because the typical American citizen is really stupid. And what are you going to do with these people other than basically spawn camp them for money? Like, fatten them up, give them all kind of chronic health issues, spawn camp them for money, make it next to impossible for them to reproduce. I kind of can't blame the elites on one level, but at the same time, you can still very much blame the typical American citizen for being lazy and for not striving in a way that people around the world do, because people around the world, they don't have money like Americans do, for damn sure not. I feel like they may be competent and even somewhat intelligent, many of them, but because they don't have money, because they don't have the American empire, they are just kind of stuck coddling people of the Western world pretty much, and it's kind of humiliating in a way. But they kind of don't seem to mind it that much anyways. But still, I notice things like this. I notice how undeserving your average American is of really what they have. The few things they still do have They don't deserve these things because they're too stupid and lazy to have earned it, you know? There's so many other people around the world that deserve these things that you could get beneficial-wise from being an American citizen, you know? On one level, you know, I don't like the whole immigrant thing in America, but at the same time, that's one reason why I'm maybe not as hardcore anti-immigrant as some people are. I'm really not. I do feel like, hey, these Americans, you know, if they're this stupid, then yeah, why not let Pachit and Yuan and fucking Salvador come up in here and take freaking American Joe's job and just basically bully him around his own land and make it expensive for him in his own land, you know? Why not? Yeah, come on up in here, immigrants, because these Americans are dumbasses anyway. Fuck them. You know? I can kind of see that side of the argument just due to how stupid Americans really are. I have no sympathy for stupid people, you know? As a monastic, it's not my job to really give a fuck about people who are just parasites, ultimately, which is what the majority of Americans are. You know, like this kind of more applies to the women than the men, but really you can kind of cleanly apply it to all Americans for the most part, you know? Parasites for the most part. And like I said, Americans have been neglected very, very much, but anyways, I'll go ahead and cut it short here and stop rambling. You know, America really stopped functioning as a nation starting in about 1913, you know? It was only after that point, you know, I can make a whole video going into that, about what happened in 1913. If you know, you know, but I'll go ahead and cut it here. This has been Emperor Dion the Lion, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.